We'll talk about that. Yeah.
And just make sure you guys speak into your microphone so they can pick up everything you're saying clearly. Okay. Did you want to just go ahead and proceed?
Yeah.
We'll give them
Let's
4 minutes.
give them a couple minutes.
Okay.
If it's all right with you all. Let's see if Liza will give her a couple minutes. It won't be substantive business until
All right.
6:05.
Okay, at this time at 6:03. At this time at 6:03, I call this meeting to order of the Agritourism Committee on August 26, 2024. And at this time, we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, at this time, I'll call roll. Committee Member Joseph Chalmers.
Yes. Here.
Committee Member Darren Swank.
Here.
Committee Member Manish Sood.
Here.
Committee Member Jeff Sluggett.
Here.
Committee Member Lisa Hallman is absent. The Assistant Town Clerk, Sammy Brown, is present. Project Coordinator Jeffrey Kurtz.
Here.
We have a quorum and we'll proceed. The first item we have on the agenda is the swearing in of the committee members.
Do you want to do it individually or as a group? As a group.
Okay. So at this time, you'll repeat after me. It'll start with I and your name. I,
Aye.
your name.
Garrett Swank.
Do solemnly swear and affirm that I will support.
Support.
Actually. This would help. Just pass these.
We have it. They've got it in the package. Protect.
All right. Yep. Protect and defend the Constitution
Protect and defend the Constitution
and the government of the United States
and the government of the United States
and the state of Florida
and the state of Florida
and the charter of the town of Loxahatchee Groves,
and the charter of the town of Loxahatchee Groves,
that I am duly qualified to hold
that I'm duly qualified to hold
office under the Constitution of the state of Florida
office under the Constitution of the state of Florida
and the charter of the town of Loxahatchee Groves,
and the charter of the town of Loxahatchee Groves,
and that I will well and faithfully perform
and that I will well and faithfully perform
the duties of the committee member upon which I'm about to enter.
the duties of the committee member upon which I am now about to enter.
At this time, you have now been sworn in. The next item on our agenda is the selection of officers for this committee, starting with the chair. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to select the chair of this committee.
I did it this time. Alex can do it. F can do it. He's good.
do it, Jeff?
Like me to do it?
Okay.
Do we have a motion?
Yeah, Jeff.
Okay.
Yep.
Alrighty, so a formal motion by Darren Swank to make Mr. Jeff Sluggett the committee chair.
Yes.
Yep.
And do we have a second?
Yep, second.
Mr. Joseph Chalmers have seconded that.
Yes.
All in favor?
Yes.
All opposed? That passes unanimously. And at this time, we will now select a vice chair. I'll entertain a motion for a vice chair.
All right, why not? All right.
All
Go
right.
ahead.
I nominate Noosh for his vice chair.
Thank you.
Committee member Jeff Sluggett has nominated Mr. Manish Sood as the vice chair of the committee. Do I have a second?
Yeah.
Second by committee member Joseph Chalmers. Okay. We now have our chair and vice chair, but for the purposes of this meeting, I'll facilitate it, and then at the next meeting, Mr. Sluggett, you'll be the chair and you'll take over at that time. Our next item on the agenda is a presentation by Ms. Tanya Early, our legal counsel, on the Sunshine Laws and Code of Ethics. Ms. Early, are you there?
I am here. Can you see and hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Were.
Okay. Delay.
Hold on.
We're having,
Tanya, we're having a little problem. Say a sentence like, hello, how are you? Can you hear us, Tanya?
you might want to log off and rejoin. It says your connection is unstable. Oh, actually,
I'm gonna try to just do my best. Can you all hear me okay?
No, not right
On
now.
and off.
I definitely hear and try again. See on the screen that you can't really see me.
okay, we can see you and hear you clearly now.
You
No, I
can't.
think it's frozen again.
Yeah, it's frozen again.
Definitely a weak connection, I think.
You might want
Okay.
you might want to log off and try rejoining.
I will be happy to do so. Mr. Chair, I apologize for the delay.
Actually, that might be better. We can hear you. We can hear you pretty good now. Can you hear us, Tanya?
I don't think she can.
Oh, okay.
It's delayed.
Yeah.
Let's bring her back up.
Let her try to get back on and while we're waiting for her, have all of you had a chance to read the previous report that was supplied?
From the last session?
Yes.
I don't think I ever saw it.
Okay, it was in your agenda package. I don't know.
Oh, in here?
Yes.
Okay.
Could you summarize it? What happened? Why did it fail?
When we get there.
Okay, I'm back. Can you allow me to share my screen?
Yes, let me give you the permissions again.
That sounds better.
Good.
All right. You should have the permissions to share your screen.
Hold on. Let's get out of here. Okay. Are we good now?
Yes, we can
Yes.
hear you.
Okay, I'm gonna just keep going. I'm hearing you guys on a delay. Doesn't sound right. Jeff, just kind of wave at me, okay?
Okay, if you could just
Okay,
go
so
forward.
committee members, good evening. Will
Yes.
do. Committee members, good evening. My name is Tanya Early. I work for the town attorney's office, clearly techniques. So the purpose of this evening is to talk to you about Sunshine Public.
Tanya, I think
No?
it's
It's
not
not.
working. Why don't we just, we'll bring you back for the next meeting and have the Sunshine presentation for them at that point in time. Because right now, unfortunately, it's we're having those technical difficulties, and I think it's probably bothersome to you and ineffective for us.
I couldn't.
Tanya, we're going to sign. Why don't you sign off? And
I apologize to the committee, and
it's not your fault.
Oh, she left already. It was
All right.
delayed.
Okay.
Okay, we're gonna proceed. I think Jeff is gonna now,
Well, yeah,
committee liaison is gonna, are you gonna do the recap or are you gonna just go into the discussion?
I'm going to. All right.
All right,
This is the reconstituted agritourism committee. I was not involved in the previous efforts. There were meetings that were held in the beginning of this year to look at agritourism and come up with some suggestions. That there's a report that's been attached, and I'm going to read for you what we are supposed to do. Then we'll talk about it. And after I read the purpose, I would like to have everybody introduce themselves to each other and let me know whether or not you were on the committee before. But the purpose of the committee is to review the report and recommendations from the previous committee, which was just a few months ago, and recommend to the town council potential substantial offsite impacts of agritourism activities and to develop recommendations to balance the needs of the agritourism operation with the health, safety, and welfare of the public and peace and tranquility of the surrounding residential communities. Such recommendations shall include identification of potential substantial offsite impacts and how to identify any additional potential substantial offsite impacts, how such impacts should be measured to establish whether the impact is substantial, and how such impacts should be, and there's a typo here, mitigated, not impacted is the word. But I think we had so many impacts and so many substantials in there that you might have thought probably an attorney wrote it. And being one, I can't take credit for it. But I understand that to me, there's a lot of superfluous language in there. And I think what our purpose should be is to look at agritourism as it exists in the town. Talk about whether the agritourism businesses have an impact on the surrounding properties. And then try to indicate whether or not there's big impacts or little impacts and whether or not we can come up with some solutions as to how they may be addressed. Because everybody, my perception is that everybody in the community appreciates the fact that we are a unique community and have these agritourism businesses here. It's part of what makes Loxahatchee Groves different, special, unique, whatever you want to call it. But it's part of making this place what it is. And at the same time, the agritourism businesses don't want to be viewed negatively by their neighbors, because that's problematic for everybody. Now, you're never going to be able to make everybody happy, as Darren can tell you. But living together and living amicably is a goal of this. And I think understanding how the businesses work, because they're definitely not all the same. There's differences between them. What I want to do, especially tonight, is listen to you all about what your businesses are, and get to know each other a little bit. And we'll go over briefly with the recommendations of the prior board. But Manish had asked whether or not what it was that failed with the other group. I wasn't involved, but I don't have the perception that they failed.
No, I said vote failed. Why was the vote?
Well, why would
Was the vote?
no? My understanding is they came up with recommendations, and then the council, month or two later, with some fresh new faces on it, wanted the committee to take another look at it and see where we could go, and maybe get some more definitive sorts of recommendations, and focus once again, obviously, on those substantial impacts and what they are. With that, what I'd like to do at this point in time is introduce ourselves. I'm Jeff Kurtz. I am the project coordinator. I have a long background in local government. Most of it has been as an attorney. I've been a city attorney, assistant city attorney in a number of places. I have also represented folks for local government bodies for the last year. Well, I guess it's a year and a half or so, 2 years. I have been acting as the project coordinator here, which means I do a lot of things. Jack of all trades, master of none, involved in all kinds of things, budget related, some new experiences for me, and involved with this committee and several others. I think I'm the oldest person in the room.
I just wanted to note for the record, at 6:20, our town manager Francine has joined us.
Right.
Hi, I'm so sorry if I'm cutting Mr. Kurtz short on that story, so I'll wait until he's done. But I'm in here for a very specific reason, and some of you know what it is.
Well, that was my introduction. If we could go around and introduce ourselves to each other, let me know if you were on the committee before and what your interest in being on this committee is now.
Before you do that, if you don't mind, the reason I came in to join you is because I actually worked with this committee on the first go round, and I know one of the concerns of the committee was their recommendations weren't going to be heard. So why were we going through this process? And so at least two of you are back again to look at your own work. You are not here because that work wasn't well received, and you are not here because that work isn't a very good start. I think that we're back here to see if there is anything that needs to be added to it, and if there's anything that we need to address relative to implementation of those things. And also, there are a couple of new faces, but I wanted to step in here, like I said, for a very specific purpose. And I knew that in all of the meetings and all of the efforts that we invested in the last go round, there was concern that this would not be taken and implemented. And I am here to tell you that you have a fresh face with Mr. Kurtz, and you might take a fresh look at it, but you're here because we are going to implement it. And we have already changed the way that we've been approaching agritourism. I just hope that, we can continue the good work that we started at the first time. And I'm not going to make any further comment or introduction. I just wanted to come in and thank you for serving and remind you it's actually going to be implemented. Thank you. Have a good rest of your night.
Yep.
And I'm happy to see you all.
Thanks.
Well, you're the chair, Jeff. You might as well.
Yeah, thanks. So my name is Jeff Sluggett. I am a lifelong resident of Palm Beach County. Lived in Loxahatchee Groves for the past 20 years. Western communities out here, probably another 10 years beyond that, probably so 30 years out in this particular area. I have a equestrian background. Years ago, I don't ride much anymore, but have been somewhat in the livestock business with my family. We still have cattle on our property. Been involved in horses, like I said, for many years. And over the years through my business, which is, I'm a government relations consultant. My company is Jeffrey B. Sluggett and Associates, small boutique government relations lobbying firm. We've represented various agricultural ventures over the years, from sod farms to vegetable farms to equestrian farms and some ranches as well. So, have that background per se. My business directly is not in it. I've had a lot of experience with it, and in fact, here in Loxahatchee Groves, and full disclosure, I represent one of the groups that has one of the horse shows that currently started taking place the past 2 years here in Loxahatchee Groves. So, and they are considered an agritourism business here in Groves, and obviously they're very interested in seeing what's going to happen. But obviously, I'm happy to participate, but I think this is very important because Loxahatchee Groves is very unique. But we've got some other agricultural communities, and I think we'll get into the discussion. And we've got Wellington across the street, which has a huge equestrian industry there as well. I've started to get an idea of how they're handling some of these issues as well. But in a nutshell, that's it. And I'm glad to participate, and thanks to these gentlemen for being back here and doing it again. So.
Yes. Hello. My name is Joseph Shamus. I own Gratitude Garden Farm. We're a certified organic farm. We grow microgreens, mushrooms, turmeric, ginger, fruits. We are also an educational farm. We do glamping retreats, which are 1 or 2 night educational retreats that go over all aspects of organic farming in regards to planting. We also give mushroom classes. And it's more of it's a really in-depth educational 2-day retreat. And that's really what we're bringing to Loxahatchee Groves right now with something that's kind of new. I don't think that's really been done here before. So it's definitely a newer experience trying to work through all the nuances with agritourism. Still it's kind of newer in this area. I know Darren Swank's been doing it for a long time, so he's one of the pioneers here. But there are some newer projects coming up, and looking forward to hearing some of the others that are making their way in Loxahatchee Groves. So,
That's fine. All right, my name is Darren Swank from Swank Specialty Produce up on North Road.
And we've been here since 1999, growing produce for the communities of Broward, Palm Beach, and Dade County. This is our 14th season of doing agritourism events. Probably the reason why everybody's here for the most part. But I don't know. I mean, we went through it fairly well last time, so I guess we'll just go through it again. And I'm not sure if anything's going to change, but I guess we'll see how it goes as we progress. And that's it.
Hi there. Is anybody listening on the YouTube or is it just us for now?
Oh, it's being streamed right
Big
now.
screen. All right.
Yeah.
Anybody who's watching, thank you for listening to very boring but important conversation. My name is Manish Sood. I and my family own 24 Carat Ranch. We bought this 10-acre ranch about 3.5 years ago. We started with equestrian, which we still do. And we quickly went into breeding. We breed miniature horses, miniature goats, miniature pigs, miniature cows, you name it. And we fell into agritourism just by chance. My background is engineer. And I started multiple technology companies and took all the way to private equity and venture capital. And I specialize in healthcare and AI. And farming has been a passion for us. I was raised on a farm, so we started this. And right now we are one of the #1 goat yoga place in Palm Beach County. People come to us from all over the country. And we promote all of our businesses. We tell them about Swank. We tell them about other businesses. So it's very good ecosystem that is generated here. So agritourism has been growing very well for us. We also do full moon festival, cultural events, music events. We also do animal, classes where kids from all over the Palm Beach County and beyond come to our farm to learn about, how to take care of animals. We also do programs for special need kids. We host a lot of autism groups. We host a lot of military veterans. We do a lot of trauma I wouldn't call it therapy, but a lot of programs are oriented towards people to relax and enjoy the farm life. So we are very excited about agritourism, and this is a privilege to be a part of this group and discuss how we can add to the experience of Loxahatchee Grove residents and agritourism at the same time. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Let's go to the report that the committee prepared, which is on page 28 of your agenda. And there were 5 recommendations that were the previous committee made.
That's the step. This is just for you guys to sign and get back to me.
And the first recommendation was that that substantial offsite impacts of agritourism activities should not be included as a section. If we were to propose another ordinance, and there's a note that potential substantial offsite impacts can be addressed by the code enforcement process. Those of you who were on the committee, do you recall that discussion and that recommendation? Because that's one of the charges that we have is to take a look at what the potential impacts are. And the way if I was to have an equestrian farm, and I wanted to do an agritourism business in which I would have 10 people come on the weekend and we would have a barbecue on Friday at the place. We'd go on a trail ride on Saturday and Sunday mornings, Saturday night. As a part of this, they'd see how to take care of horses, feed them, muck out stalls, all that kind of stuff. They'd see what it was like. Saturday night, we'd load them up in the van because remember, there's just 10 of them. We'd go to Boonies so that they could experience what Loxahatchee's all about. On Sunday, after Boonies, we might have some, campfire music and stuff like that, and sip some more adult beverages, then get up the next day and have a nice picnic. And I'd charge some reasonable amount for that. And I'd have 10 people, and I would do it because my house is big enough that it could hold those 10 people easily. And I would step off into the caretaker's quarters and stay there for the weekend while, we had the cooks and everything handle all of that. So that's sort of my vision. May or may not exist in some form. And when I look at that, I'm probably saying that doesn't really have any impact. Because I've got, in the example I forgot to tell you, I got 10 acres. And so finding places for 10 cars to park on my property, that's not a big deal. They're in my driveway or just off to the side. And everything is relatively contained. 10 people plus 2 guides riding around the trails here together off site. Not a big deal. And it doesn't have any real impact out there. And the van ride to Boonies, we've got a designated driver, so we're going to be okay there. And the music, it's probably not going to be that loud around the campground. Some of the folks may be skinny dipping in the pool, but that's really not going to hurt anything offsite. And there we are. But as my business grows, and all of a sudden I start taking in 100 people a weekend, now I might have more of an impact. So I think that's just my off the cuff, example of how you can have 2 agritourism businesses, one relatively small, but once that same business grows to a certain extent, it's going to have more impact. I'm going to have to think more about, well, parking 100 cars on my property, that may be more of a challenge. Having 100 riders out on the trail system, that may be a challenge. Because our trails are not that extensive or wide and all those kind of things. And 100 people that all come into Boonies, now I got 6 vans. That's going to be boom. We're going to have more of an impact out there. So, and oh, by the way, my house got a lot bigger because I now got to hold 100 people there. Or maybe I've got some tent sites. Maybe I've got, to figure a way to get more property and have several locations, all those kind of things. So once again, exactly the same business. The model has grown. There's going to be more of an impact. I'm ignorant as to what constitutes the type and the scope and the size of businesses that we have in town. Okay. Maybe that's not good that I'm your committee liaison. On the other hand, I'm open and want to learn about it. And then as we talk about these businesses, then maybe we can answer some of the questions about impacts and how things could be affected. I know that one of the things that the prior committee wanted to discuss was signage in the sense of being able to have some offsite signage. And right now, that arguably is not allowed in town. And so that's something that we should be addressing and see if we can come up for some solutions for that. The other comments that were in the reports is the report, as I understood it, was don't want to focus on agritourism as such, but whatever the noise regulations are, that should be imposed on everybody. And then if an agritourism business violates that, they should be code enforced and see if they can do that on an individual basis. But what I would like to hear from you, because you guys are the experts, tell me more about and tell us more about how the businesses operate, and whether there's 50 people, 10 people, 100 people, 1,000 people, all those kind of things, and what the differences are within the industry. I know Jeff's equestrian client. It is a horse show operation, but it's not a horse show operation like WEC is over there. Much smaller scale, not as many visitors or spectators. Most of the people that come are participants. So that's going to be a different impact. But when you say it's a horse show, yeah, it is a horse show. So I'm going to hopefully be quiet for a while, and I want to hear from you guys as to what agritourism businesses are out there in town and how they operate and what you think their impacts are: small, large, substantial, or insubstantial.
Jeff, let me ask you a question before we get too far into the weeds on this discussion. Looking at the Florida statute, what does the statute say as far as how much can you regulate off-site impacts that we're talking about? Because I know when I've looked at it, and I probably need to go back and look at it again, but it's not real clear. It's pretty almost like clear as mud. It just doesn't, it's not real objective. There's not objectivity as to what those potential.
I think that
how much you can rate it.
I think that's a correct summation, but the statute does talk about, offsite impacts. But I think so.
But wait, but it does, the specific word in the statute is substantial.
Right. No.
So if you don't, you guys have to use that word. Nobody wants to use it, but it's the word that's the key to the whole statute.
I don't.
Okay,
Darren.
Okay, that's fine. I just want to clarify.
No, I understand.
Because I'm gonna hit that home all night.
Here's the thing. Okay. What I'm telling you is that at least me, I'm like an open book. I don't have a position on this. I want to learn. So when you talk about us or them, it's not an us or them sort of situation. What I want to work with this committee on is gaining an understanding so that we can put something together. And maybe the something is, no, we don't need anything. But in order for when you get into the substantial, okay, it's like the example that I gave. Um, 10 folks, probably everybody can agree that's not going to have a substantial impact, especially if it's just, on the weekend or every other weekend kind of thing throughout the year. Whether anybody will even notice is an issue. If I have 100 people, that's another level. Whether that's substantial or not, that's what we would kind of talk about when we were talking about a specific business. If I got 1,000 people coming, I'm probably substantially impacting. All right. And I'm not making a judgment about that right now. I'm just saying that's a kind of example that you can have exactly the same thing going on, but depending on the amount of people that you're servicing, your impact levels are going to go up. What I honestly need or would like to hear from you all is what kind of businesses do we have in town? Can we categorize? I want to work with the folks in town. And maybe the answer is we come up and we say, okay, this type of business has a very, very limited impact. This type of business may have something more. And then we can get to those questions about what's substantial or not substantial. I don't, for right now, to me, it's a conversation and hopefully learning about the businesses and not relying on assumptions. Because we don't have the staff to go out and do a market survey of all the businesses that are out there. And one of the things too is when the town does receive complaints, it's helpful for us to understand what's going on at the business in order to be able to say, well, that's been looked at and that's been determined that it's not substantial. And it's one of those things we're just going to have to live with. Or, wow, that's something that we didn't realize and maybe we'll have to take a look into. But right now, for my purposes, what I'd like to, and our purposes as a committee, what we've been asked to look at is what does constitute a substantial impact. And in order to understand that, first of all, I think we need to talk about what kind of businesses are out there. And you guys are much more familiar with what's going on in this town than I certainly am, or anybody on staff is, because you're actually operating them. So.
Do you have more questions? Or you don't?
No, go ahead. Yes,
Just,
you
I
know.
mean, just you want to go next? I'll go. All right, so the agritourism is for supplementing, subsidizing the farming or any type of agriculture, because that's how it's written. You could do anything, nurseries, what have you. So let's understand that it's for supplementing, keeping these farmers here, attracting the ones that have the ability to do it, and making it worthwhile for them to achieve the goal of farming or nurturing or horses or whatever it happens to be. So there's a purpose for it. I mean, some folks think that, I'm sure there's folks that use it just to make money and what have you. But, from our perspective of what we do, we're using it to supplement our income to keep us, our heads above water. And that's really the basis of why we use it.
Yeah.
So, and we've probably been doing it the longest. I don't think there's anybody else out here that has. We were here before the town was a town. I went through this whole thing, but we can do it again. We were here before the town was a town, and we've been doing it for 14 years, never abused it. Our times are always off by 8, 9 o'clock. So well before the 10 p.m. county ordinances, that's what the town sound was. As far as the traffic, there was really not much of a complaint on the traffic. It was more the queuing and safety pertaining to the queuing of the cars entering the property and exiting. And that's what we went over with Francine the last time. And, I adjusted my direction of travel and or opened up a secondary option for parking, which alleviated the queuing. And I believe that code enforcement was out there a couple of times after the fact, and there is no more queuing. So the flow of traffic is flowing. It's not stopping. So that eliminated the safety issue from the fire department or what have you. And outside of that, the lighting really isn't an issue because I don't use a lot of aggressive lighting. So that was, I don't think I even had that. Dust, I don't think I had dust either. And then the noise, like I already talked about, we're done by 8, 9 o'clock. I mean, we do 10 events for our personal executed events. We do 10 a year, same amount we've been doing for a while. We might get 1 or 2 weddings a year, possibly, but we don't even go for those. We're not advertising for them. People call us for it. And the way Jody charges a decent amount to rent the venue, and but we don't chase after it. So the folks that come to us, like our pole barn and our farm is a working farm. So it's rough. It's not manicured. It isn't pretty
Right.
per se. I mean, from some perspectives, the way I look at it is the folks that want to use our barn are using us to help support the farm. Not necessarily to, go out and do the Instagram photos because, I guess it's beautiful in some regard, but there's certainly some others out there that are way nicer, as far as the money that they spend on maintenance and or look.
Right.
So, so that's how I look at that. Now, our Saturday farmer market, we started that when COVID happened because they shut all the farmer markets down. I mean, we spent 19 years down in West Palm Beach. And that March 8th, they shut all those farmer markets down. We still had months of produce to sell. And previous to that, a couple seasons when the farmer market would end at West Palm in April, whatever it was, we would come to the farm and invite a couple vendors out. And we did a couple of, weeks worth of vending there. And then, like I said, when the COVID happened, we moved over there and all the other farmer markets were shut. And then, so we were doing that on Saturdays. And then, so we had a captive audience, which made that successful. And then we're continued with that because people appreciate it. And not for nothing, not to, to down West Palm Beach market, but, 25 years ago, that was on Banyan, it was 60 vendors. And it was primarily all just food products. And then they turned that into 180 vendors, maybe even 200. I don't even know where it's at now. And then it turned into, antiques and whatever. So most of your food buyers that really want to buy and they're looking for the fresh produce, they just want to go and shop and go home. They don't want to have to navigate through this and then West Palm, they actually separate the food vendors and out throughout the entire facility that they use and make all these folk walk the entire property to shop. So you could see, well, now they charge for parking. Back in the day, it was free. So and then you got to walk. So, so for us in our farmer market, which we get plenty of folks from the community and surrounding community, they appreciate the ability to, and not for nothing, I will state that Loxahatchee Groves, one of the complaints was that they couldn't even get our produce. We were here, but, back in the day, we were just selling to restaurants and so forth, and nobody had access to our food. So now they have access to the food. And so I think that's a benefit for the community in general, if you're looking for those types of products. So for the Saturday market, a couple hundred people probably, but it's 3 hours. And we'd probably do 32 of those a year, whatever it is, from October through the beginning of June. It's 3 hours, and it's not like the first day is always challenging, like with anything. But outside of that, there's always a nice flow of cars ingress and egress, and it actually works quite well. As far as the events, obviously, when you, and the way I speak about that is, like when the fairgrounds does events, if you ever driven by there, those folks are queued up to the turnpike, trying to get in and out of the amphitheater or whatever. And they have the police there and, everything. And, there's, the complaint is, the traffic, whatever. But anytime you bring that many folks together to congregate at one specific time, you're going to have more challenges than you would if it's spread out over a 3-hour period of folks coming and going.
So with your with the 10 events,
Yeah.
how many people do you?
Somewhere between 280 to 240 would be our maximum.
Okay. And so is it fair to say that they probably average about 2 people per car?
It's anywhere from 60 cars to 110, maybe,
Okay.
somewhere. Now, I will, because Francine was talking about, the valet system, which does work, because we tried that a couple of times on the asphalt, it's more cost to do it, but they were able to, it just seemed like to me that, folks can just pull in, you're not going to have the delay of the folks getting out before the next car comes in because they just come in and they park it for you, which is, if you're the valet drivers and parkers, they park quickly. They're not in and out, you know what I'm saying? It's just,
Right,
it's a
right.
business. So it did expedite the parking and it seemed like it went much smoother. I will say that.
Okay. And with the farmer's market, it's probably about the same at any one point in time, like in 60 cars?
Yeah,
Yes.
approximately 60 cars on any given moment,
Okay.
but that's spread out over a 3-hour term.
All right.
Yes.
And I haven't been to your place, so I don't know. Do you have a consolidated area for the
Parking?
parking?
Yeah, so we have parking on the north side of our property and we have parking on the south side of our property. And then I also, when they were concerned with the queuing, I opened up a third spot for the like vendors or whoever the staff that's attending or whatever you have for those folks to park more or less towards the middle of the property. And then we use the north and or south parking for whether, for cars, for the visitors.
All right.
We won't use the south parking unless it's, the first day, if it depends on the time of season and what's going on. Sometimes you need the south park and then sometimes you don't.
So it sounds like, and anybody can jump in, I'm just asking.
Sure.
It sounds like the biggest issue that you have that impacts the neighbors would be a queuing situation.
Yes, from a car standpoint.
Yeah.
Which we resolved from, using the double parking situation alleviated that.
Yeah. Better
Oh,
management of the internal circulation.
Yes. So, that worked well for the farmer market for sure. That pretty much got rid of that entire situation. Now, with the events, like I was saying, everybody's coming at a specific time. So it's much, much, much harder to alleviate the queue situation.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
that's when I talk about the amphitheater and so forth. Like anytime you have, and they have thousands and thousands of spots.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily the number of spots you have. It's the time constraints of getting the folks
And you
in
also
and park.
with your property, you only have a single means of egress. There's only one way to get to your property.
Yeah, well, since they closed off the back gate,
Right.
that's a correct statement.
Okay.
Back when the back gate was open, some folks did come from that direction, yes, but no more.
All right. Within town, is there any current operation that has more people coming to it at one time or over the course of a 3-hour period than Darren's? Did anybody know anything?
Well, it's a church, but I don't know if it's a church does. They have,
Church does.
every Wednesday, they have a substantial amount of folks that come for the food there. And it's always queued up on Okeechobee Boulevard.
That's Okeechobee Boulevard. It's not a side street either, so.
Okay,
it's
so
a lot more.
main road.
and the church operation, is that a farmer's market or what?
No, I think
No,
it's,
Food drive, I think.
yeah, I think,
Food pantry.
pantry,
stuff
right.
like that.
Food
Yes.
pantry?
Yeah, there's
Mhm.
always a huge line on the food pantry, but it's a food pantry. It's
Right.
So that wouldn't fall
no,
within the agritourism.
No.
No, but it's
yeah,
still-
But I understand it's got an impact. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
and that was
I
my
understand.
original complaint. I was like, well, you're coming after the swing farm, but what about everybody else in the town?
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I just want to be treated fairly. That's really where I've always said was always my statement and position.
And you can, I don't want us to, I certainly don't want us to talk negatively about anybody else's business, but
Sure.
if you're aware of other situations that have some impact, or other situations that you would say don't have any impact, let me know. Because once again, in my mind, the reason you guys are on the committee is you're the experts, not just about your own business, but you're familiar with the town and its agritourism industry, if you will. So,
I mean, I don't know of any others. But that doesn't say that they're not going to happen in the future,
right.
or it's going to grow or not grow or what have you.
One point I would just like to make too is all these operations are bona fide ag uses. I mean, they're farms, that's their primary business. Like as Darren was saying, that's not, having swank dinners, those are not, that's not this primary business, the farming operation.
Right. Yeah, no.
But at the same time, we're talking about community impacts and so forth, but we've got some large straight ag, forget the agritourism side of it, just straight agricultural businesses, nurseries and so forth that provide or that have a very significant impact on our community. And some of, most of them are nurseries I'm aware of, but very significant as well. So I know it's going to be somewhat sensitive in having this discussion about, well, from the agritourism side, those impacts, but we have impacts from the agricultural industry all over Los Angeles, and that's we have infrastructure that needs to be the town's working on improving that infrastructure and so forth, but that's a significant impact. So I think we have these discussions and we have to balance that as well and take that all into consideration.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, equestrian has the smell, the equestrian has the flies, so everybody impact, I've always said this from the beginning that every business in the town impacts the town in some format. This isn't just the agritourism folks or the farmers here.
Yeah. One of the things like if you talk about the smell and those kind of things, for the most part, on a farm, and I may be ignorant about this, but for the most part, that smell of a horse farm is confined to the horse farm.
I don't know about that's a true statement. I don't agree with that because I smell manure on my property, from horses, and I know Joseph speaks about that too. If the wind's traveling,
it doesn't bother me, but I do smell it. I do smell it.
And then another point that I'd like to make that I've been making since day one is the town is zoned agriculture residential. It's not residential agriculture, it's agriculture residential. Right. So the folks that moved to this zoning, either one, they didn't know where they were moving, or two, they didn't do enough research. There's a break there. If you're going to move to that zoning, it's not a PUD. It's not, RR, it's agriculture residential. So everybody knew where they were moving when they moved out here. Now, back in the day, maybe there wasn't a whole lot of this stuff going on, but the county set this apart. When I asked where to go, when I was doing research on this farm back in '96, I said, where should I go? And Arthur Kirsten said, go out to Loxahatchee Groves. It's zoned for what you want to do. It's like where you should be. And that's where you should go. And I was like, okay. So that's what I did. And I came out here and this is where I bought.
Well, I guess where I'm coming from when it comes to smells is long time ago when I was in high school, the high school that I went to right next door to us was a farm. And it seemed like it was during football season. They would come out and we called it the honey wagon. Would come by and it would spread the honey, right when we're practicing, you're inhaling, you're breathing hard, all those kind of things. And so that was like a very direct experience with the smell being very close. But smells dissipate very quickly. Like if you can smell something for like a minute or something along those lines, and then after you're in it for that long, well, that smell loses its overwhelmingness to you.
But you get used to it.
Yes, that's exactly right. You get used to it,
right?
And it's a very quick adaptation.
Mm-hmm.
So I just so you understand, that's my perspective on smells. from a long time ago, very, very powerful odors coming from a very near thing in a situation where I was breathing heavy. It was okay after a little bit. So, uh, uh, Joseph, if you could tell me about your operation. Sounds like how many people come in for the
retreat.
and the educational courses at at a particular time, and
Sure.
the retreats last for a weekend, but
So the retreats, yeah, we're probably, we're first and foremost, we're farmers. We're heavy in mushrooms, so we grow gourmet mushrooms, and we sell to about over 100 restaurants here in South Florida. We also work with other farms and teach them how to grow mushrooms, because there's a lot of people trying to enter into this field, and the barrier to entry is very high. The knowledge is high. The cost to entry is very, very high. If you don't know what you're doing, you can spend a lot of money and not get the right results. It's very difficult. So we've been working with a lot of smaller farms and larger farms that want to get into mushroom growing. So we're teaching them. And then we're also providing mushroom blocks for them so they can be successful. Because, we've been doing this. I've been here since 2013, and I've been growing since 2014 here in Loxahatchee Groves. And just recently, we've entered the agritourism space to supplement income, because farming is difficult to make a living farming. It really is. I mean, my wife and I work over 120 hours a week just for the last 7-8 years, and it's just, we can't keep going at that pace. So we're using agritourism as a way to supplement income and educate public, because we have so many people that want to learn, especially in the mushroom field and everything else that we do, which is medicinal crops, specialty crops like turmeric, medicinal mushrooms. We grow a lot of medicinal fruits and veg and stuff like that. We've done about 5 markets every weekend for the last 8-9 years now. So most of our income comes from farmers markets. And I don't know if you've ever done a farmers market.
That's when you say, are you doing the farmers market on your property, or
you're on our property?
You're going to?
Yeah. So I met Swank at one of the markets, and he's also one of our neighbors. They're not far from us. And I also do their farmers market too. So we're actually at their ones on Saturday, which was very helpful during COVID, because it's the only one open. So we brought all people over there, which was great that he was able to do that, because we managed to eliminate all that red tape in regards to people wanting to buy food. It's an essential product back then. So, sorry, I lost my train of thought. What was the question again?
So how many people
Sure.
come
So
when you?
I do between 8 and 18 people. And that's my maximum I can take, is 18 people. We've never not done one at 18 people. It's more like 12 to 15 usually. And that's the kind of, I can't do it much bigger. I'm only 5 acres, number one.
Okay.
So I'm a smaller farm, and my farm is pretty, like, there's not much more to do, much stuff in it. It's just all fields and hoop houses, and we have grow rooms, like multiple mushroom grow rooms. So it's pretty compacted. So it's kind of a newer style farming where everything is kind of tighter. So it's not like big open fields, what you imagine a lot of other farms. It's similar to Darren's. Darren's more is hydro. He's a little bit more hydroponic. Mine's more
yeah, with mushrooms, once again, things go back to the next town over from my high school was Kennett Square.
Okay. Very familiar with those guys. Yeah.
And so
mushroom capital of the US.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the world back in my day. Then the Japanese, I think.
The Chinese and Japanese have to say about that, I think.
Well, 50 years ago, it was, we were number one. But anyway, my once again recollection observation is that there were the mushrooms were grown in manure but
Those are button mushrooms. You are correct. Those are buttons and portobellos, but we do not grow those. We grow
Okay.
gourmets, and gourmets are grown out of wood.
Okay.
So we grow them out of oak wood and organic soy hulls that compress together into almost like an pellet, like a fuel pellet. And then we mix water with it, and then we sauna steam them for about 24 hours to sterilize them, and then we inoculate them with the different varieties of mushroom spores, depending on what variety we're growing. We grow about 9 to 10 varieties right now, and we sell them to restaurants. And we have our Gap. We're one of the only mushrooms farms in Florida, in South Florida anyway, for sure. And we're Gap certified and certified organic. So we have all the licensing to be able to sell to restaurants and to grocery stores, and I believe we're one of the only ones in Florida that Gap certified.
And so when you have the 10 to 18 people
Yes.
on site, you've got a parking area for them.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's 10 to 15 cars. I mean, it's really not.
And they're probably not coming all exactly the same time for the glamping, or are they?
No, they usually come. It's a educational weekend, so they come on Friday around 2-3 o'clock, and they leave on Sunday.
Right.
So basically, they have an itinerary. So it's not like they're just moseying around town. They're not leaving usually. We're not going anywhere. Everything is there. I'm bringing in speakers, lecturers, experts in different fields to go over educational aspects of farming. So yeah, it's a pretty intensive 2-3 day educational class. And then we're going to be doing just mushroom related for people that want to get into the mushroom business, that we could actually teach them from A to Z how to actually set up a mushroom farm without going completely bankrupt, because it's costly.
Yeah.
So there's ways of doing it that are cost effective, and we've learned those techniques over the last 10 years on how to do that. So
do you have any of the queuing issues that?
not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. Not at all. We're right off D Road before North, but we have a little turn in, and as soon as they come in, they park. They don't even go back to their car until Sunday afternoon. So no one even knows anything's happening. And there's no music. There's no if there's anyone music, it's someone with a guitar playing acoustic. There's no bands. There's nothing like that. So I don't believe there's any offsite impact whatsoever. Yeah.
Manish,
Sure. If I may propose a little bit of a change in the discussions, because I know people may be listening or other people are looking at us to come up with a policy. I think starting now, or maybe forward, chairman and vice chair, we kind of select the agenda topics and we kind of focus our time on that. And I apologize, I had to step out. There was an animal emergency, thankfully diverted. But let me share a couple of thoughts here. I think my position on this committee is not just representing me or my business. I'm also thinking of other ag businesses in the town, but more importantly, I'm also for the residents. I live here, my family's here, and the reason I came here because this is a quiet town. And the last thing I think anybody wants on this committee, and we will take some policy votes here just to set the agenda, is that the last thing we want is to be a Vegas Strip or a Delray Beach on Friday. We don't want somebody to hear our discussions and start buying properties and start making you farm. And I don't want to use their name in a negative way, but I don't want us to be an event place. I don't want us to be a night hanging out place where people are buying our properties and doing night events and dancing and all kind of partying and as we just said, my friend here, friends, I would say, depend on cooperation from other businesses. For example, I do a lot of yoga, meditation, retreats, a lot of events that require less noise. And it's nothing to do with agritourism, but I actually request my neighbors who are using tractors or who are using some sort of wood chopping or something else, I tell them, be quiet, if you could, during certain hours, and they happily cooperate. And sometimes they tell me, that, lower your music, because I do get weddings. In fact, I would say that I get a lot of events now where people are asking us to do music and dancing all night long, or they will pay us more if we let them do midnight, dancing. And we don't do any of that. I let go of that business intentionally because I don't want anybody else to do it for us. My kids are sleeping, my parents or my elders are visiting. I don't want them to create an issue for them, for my neighbors, for others. So the point I'm making here as a policy position is that from my point of position is that we want to be welcoming to the responsible ag businesses who respect each other, who respect their fellow residents. Secondly, I want everybody to know, including residents, that we bring important sales tax revenue. When we sell tickets, we pay tax to the county, and that tax, part of that comes to the town. So we generate, it's not just supplementing our income, but it's also bringing revenue to the town. And this whole definition of ag, where ag ends and where tourism begins, is all muddy. So for example, I'm an equestrian too. And sometimes we have those people who board horses, they will come and say, hey, can I bring my family and friends? And while we are with our horse, can we spend day at the farm, enjoying, put some music? And that happens very frequently when you board horses, when you become friends with the people who own horses and you do events for them. So is that tourism? Absolutely. When you have people coming to see horses, when you're showing, or, many people come to use your facility, that is also people coming to your farm. It's no different than people walking into a nursery or people buying into an ag shop to buy stuff. So I think I am saying is that we need to be tolerating people coming in, because people should understand they bought into a rural town. We are a rural town. So this is not a situation in a city where everybody quiets down or there is no traffic or HOA. You are going to have traffic. For example, a few months ago, I had about 100 bikers from Miami came over, bikes. And when they all entered our facility, they all, put their motorbike on the full boom. And you can imagine 100 bikes, on the full throttle. That created a little bit of a situation. And my neighbors, I wouldn't name anybody, but people came and they said, hey, this was something that we want to be careful. And I took their feedback and I made sure that this doesn't happen. Or if it happens, I let them know that there is something that we are expecting. So I think giving residents some information ahead of time is important. I want us to be responsible citizens. No regulation means regulation. I am of the belief that if we don't put some parameters around us, then we are no different than a commercial business or any other business in the town. So then people have a free rein to file complaints and, a lot of vague assumptions on our business. So I want us to send a clear message that this business will involve people coming in. This business will involve people coming in the cars, people coming on the bikes. This business will involve noise because by nature you have people coming in, but we are responsible as if we are responsible when we use a tractor, big tractor creating 55 decibel sound. It's no different than that. We don't, have our tractors at full throttle after 9 p.m. And so we are not going to have people yelling at the top of their lungs at or band or something after 9. So these are some of the guiding principles for me. Which I don't support is affecting our neighbors, because I know when we say impact, significant impact, we are talking about people who are not in this room, and that involves our residents. And I would encourage them to come and share with us any feedback they have in a constructive fashion, so we can hear it open-heartedly, although we are biased towards protecting our business, but we want it to be a responsible industry. So please come over here and share your feedback. I also would like the town management to give us a report of the past 12 or 24 months, a summary without naming names. What are the top complaints have come in without naming any business, without naming any identity, just a big picture, what kind of issues you are seeing, so we can consider that. I support some responsibilities around noise, light, parking, but as I said, the nature of our business depends on people coming in. So that's a fact that we have to accept. But we want to protect our neighbors as if we protect each other. For example, Swank is few blocks from us, and if they put too much of a sound, I put too much of my band at 60 decibel, you will be affected, right? Or somebody next door, two businesses next to each other trying to up the volume. So we would like to coordinate any such things. We want to be very considerate of the quiet and natural town we have been blessed with. So we want to protect it. A lot of people come to our farm to watch stars, to watch the night sky, to enjoy the quiet nature, to listen to the birds and to the animals. They don't want music. So, or any noise, but we tell them this is a farm and people around us are doing farming business. And then that's how we explain it. So with that, my last statement is, as a chair and a vice chair, let's think of some topics that we want to hone in. And rather than going into individual businesses, Jeff, I would like to look at the macro environment, but I give you some information about my business. I can hold 300 people or more, 10-acre ranch. I have done events where we have 200 people plus, but nobody has complained, touch wood, so far. So I guess we are doing something right. We do parking. We make sure people get instructions. We give them time slots. We open multiple sites. We tell our neighbors in advance, all those sort of things. So I don't support any regulation that will restrict how many people will come in, how many cars will come in. I don't support. I agree with my fellow businesses here that our businesses, people want to go to a farm market on a Sunday morning. What is he going to say? Don't come, from 9 to 12. He cannot control those things, and people need to support it, because if we are not bringing sales tax revenue, then everybody will be paying more taxes. So we have to work together with the residents, and I would welcome their input to plan it better. But I wouldn't support anything that restricts people coming in, parking, etc. As long as we are responsibly managing it. I do support the event people like us having our own security, our own parking, our own staff, so people are not spilling over the road. That I do support. That's a risk to 911 services, emergency, for fire, anything that puts anybody's safety at risk. I fully agree. We cannot. Health and safety is paramount. So other than that, we should self-manage, but follow best practices around those things. Over to you.
If I could, on your larger events, did you experience much of a queuing problem?
Not at all. No queuing problem, because we are blessed with a lot of flat land, lot of cleared land. Being an equestrian, we have paddocks. So we move our animals in one area, open those paddocks, and we let people park. And we have people who direct parking or park for them.
And you've got a long driveway, is there?
Long driveway, parking, open spaces. And we also if we have that kind of a big event, we tell people divide it into group A, B, C, come 30 minutes before event, 15 minutes before event, give them time slots, these kind of things. But, things happen sometime.
Yeah.
When 100 bikers came, bikes are going to come in 2 bikes at a time. It took time, but they were not a threat. The road was clear enough for other vehicles to
I'm just picturing the 100 bikers.
Yeah, and they were
Yeah.
women, by the way,
Yeah.
all women.
And they all wanted the goat yoga.
Yeah, that's true.
So Jeff, it looks like, obviously, seems like the discussion right now is turned towards the traffic issue and so forth. Now, it looks like there's probably 6 or 7, I guess, offsite impacts that we're gonna be discussing in more detail, right? Looking at, we obviously traffic's one, we're looking at parking, lighting, noise, odors. So we'll be drilling down into each of those, I would think, right, with future meetings, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. But what I'm hearing on the on the lighting, I don't.
I don't think I have I don't think, we don't have an issue with lighting.
Usually, yeah, and as you know, Jeff, lighting on site versus lighting off site are two different things. And on these large properties. I don't know that there's a lot of spill off of the properties right now. And plus, what I'm also hearing is that it seems like the events, for the most part, are ending before midnight or so. Yeah.
I mean, we don't have parking light on our parking area. I'm not sure about everybody else, but we don't.
I think as businesses, we actually want, believe it or not, other than the event, we want less lighting because lighting affects animals, nature, etc. So for example, I had situations where neighbors or other people said that, if they wanted to sleep and they don't want too much lighting, they want to enjoy the night sky. And as I said, our business depends on people enjoying the night sky. I think all of us follow the guidelines of the town to be responsible for our animals and nature and night creatures and so forth. So the question is, if we're having an event, you are going to have pretty good lighting for safety reasons. If there is a wedding happening and there are 200 people parked cars, you are going to have lighting just enough, not disturbing anybody, so that there is not a safety issue of any kind. People don't trip, people know where to go. But as we all follow the guidelines given by the zoning, how high the light should be and what time will it be switched off and so forth. So
I think the biggest issue was making sure the lighting doesn't spill off into the roads and blind people as they're driving by. I think that was one that was pretty self-explanatory. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, that's typically the standard that you're worried about is not just onto the roads, but also into your neighbors' houses and those kind of things, and whether there's adequate buffering.
Sure.
And then you will see also the effect, like think of stadiums or ball fields, where you do have that might not be spilling off onto other properties, but all of a sudden you see this lighted area out in the middle of nowhere. And that can be an issue. But that's usually in situations where you have higher placed lights, like if you go by any kids ball fields, where you've got 12 ball fields and they've got the night games going on, you can see those
Yeah, it's glowing
from a long time, but it's not glaring off necessarily. It's all
glowing up and around.
But it's very apparent. But that's not.
Those lights
I don't
are
think
like
that's
a
going to.
couple 100 feet tall, and there's probably
130
1,000 watt bulbs around them things.
Yeah, no,
that's a lot of light.
No, I know, and what I'm hearing is, and I'm not sure that is an issue here.
No.
But so when I look at it, just once again, before I came in and before in listening to you, there are some traffic impacts, and a lot of the and there is parking that is an internal circulation that is a solution to the traffic impacts that are out there, is what I'm hearing. And I know with the ridge, for example, that would seem to be traffic circulation would be the issue, I would suspect.
I could add to that some, like receiving your guest on your property somewhat deep in, at the back end of your parking seems to work better.
Right.
Because then you get the queuers on your road and it gets them off the main road. And then hopefully you can service those folks before the next people, so the queue doesn't actually overflow into the road. And typically it seems like that's been working well for us too.
Yeah. And
So I mean, I think it just, it takes it down
Yeah.
to a minimum situation, I guess is what I'm saying.
So,
And Jeff, one comment I make too, obviously with these gentlemen's comments with their businesses and so forth. Always when you're developing regulations, right, for the people that are maybe not gonna do it. the
Right.
right way.
right,
Well,
Gee,
that's true.
absolutely,
Clearly, that's what we're trying to,
right,
I guess, come up with.
And-
this
and that's-
discussion
and
in this round, this time.
yeah.
One of the comments I was gonna make, I think I mentioned before at the introduction, but I'm a big believer in not reinventing the wheel. We don't have to. And I'd love to see where other communities such as Wellington, which you're very familiar with, obviously, right across the street, but with their agritourism regulations, what they've potentially done, and possibly look at other communities. And not, it doesn't have to necessarily be Palm Beach County, somewhere else in the state of Florida. Let's see what other communities have done, what have they done right, maybe what they've done wrong. That way we don't have to start from scratch and trying to see what the best approach is. It sort of goes along the lines of what Manish was saying, as far as getting a list of the different complaints that possibly staff has, obtained over the past couple of years with different operations and address those. But I would like to see possibly what some other communities have done to date, and so we don't have to start from scratch. And
Okay. That sounds like I don't know if we're getting ready to break off, but let's talk about future meeting dates and talk about those agenda kind of issues that you would like to do. What's proposed is the fourth Monday of the month. Your committee is sunsetted at the end of the year, so we're not. It's not intended to go on and on. But what I've got is proposed for September 23rd, October 28th.
Yeah. I
Um,
won't be at the October 28th one, unfortunately. I'll be out of the country, but I'll be at all the others.
Okay. And I know November 25th and December 23rd are close to a couple of holidays. But they are far enough away that the village offices will be open. And I'm not, we may be able to wrap things up before that. I want you all to take a good review of the previous report. And what I hear us wanting to look at is, let's take a look at other agritourism regulations. We'll get you a list of the significant complaints that we've had. Once again, focused on agritourism complaints, because I don't think agritourism is the major source of our code enforcement complaints, but taking a look at that. And with that in mind, see if there are any significant issues that have arisen aside from those traffic sort of circulation issues, and take a look at the regulations that we have in place already for the entirety of the town with respect to the noise and the lighting, and see if there are any things that need to be there. And then I almost think the signage issue should be like at a separate meeting after. Let's hit that, and then the signage questions as a third meeting, if that makes sense to you all.
Yeah, there was a temporary signage when last time we went through it. I thought is there a temporary signage? code or something? Am I
There,
right about that?
there are temporary signs that are allowed
Allowed,
under the
okay.
code, but they typically have to do with either special event
Okay,
signage
that's what it
or,
was.
or new, new business kind of things. We are beginning the process with the ULDC of looking at the sign code, and rewriting our sign code. So, by that, that's why I'm thinking in that third meeting, we might have some more meat on those regulations and you be able to weigh in on something rather than trying to be creative.
Okay.
We discussed this last meeting also with Darren. We went over that, and I believe the committee was talking about possibly a sign specifically designed for agritourism. So, for instance, like Darren, he has a farmers markets every weekend. So you're allowed to put your sign out like X amount of days before and after your event. But if he's doing an event every Saturday, then that sign, why would it have to? He wouldn't have to remove it because every 7 days he's got that market. So we were trying to come up with a something that would work for everyone that has agritourism on a regular basis that
Right.
doesn't, you know what I mean? You don't need a special permit for the
Right.
sign every single time he does a market.
Right,
So-
right now in general, the town doesn't allow off-premise signs,
Right.
and by definition, that kind of signage that you're talking about is going to be off-premise,
Mhm.
and the town doesn't have a lot of right-of-way space, where signage is a kind of natural thing.
Mm.
But, and once again, different community, but in Wellington during the season, Wellington has they have much wider rights of way. They've got lighting. They can put up, those essentially off-premise signs where, letting people know that special events are going on, even though it's something that the town actually puts up, and we've got to think about how that would work. And
I think we were talking more directional signage.
I know,
Not
same,
necessarily
but-
promotional signage, but directional to keep folks from getting off track to their destination,
Right.
which created turnarounds and
And
this
more
type,
traffic.
Gotcha.
which created more
Yeah.
bottleneck and more problems. And I think everybody was agreeing with that approach, what I understand,
yeah, and
which would make more sense. I don't know.
no, it's once again, it's looking at the place next door. They have some of those, directional type things, but they also have the issue of where do we put them and how much room and all those kind of things.
Well, I
we can
mean,
get.
you guys have all the canals, or, I mean, you guys are in control of the canal banks, correct?
Uh-huh.
So then why couldn't they be utilized for that? I think
And
that's what we
I'm
had
not saying
mentioned
that they
too.
can. I'm just
Okay.
saying it's a little,
Sure.
it's not like some areas where, you've
Sure.
got
Yeah.
we've got less to
Wide.
work with. There's no things already, there's no height already there to attach something to. And, then you get into, okay, a lot of how much room do we really have on the road side of the canal versus the other
Yeah.
side and those kind of things. But I understand the concept. So, talk about that. And then there is just the idea of perhaps being able at some corners to utilize off-premise signs. I don't know whether or not that would fly or not. I don't know anybody whether it would be interested for folks, but.
We'll have to be careful because you get into opening up the off-premise sign codes. You got other
Mhm.
commercial businesses that are gonna wanna be part of that, so you have to.
Yeah,
look,
I
what are the
I understand.
overall Impact's gonna
Yeah.
be.
And that's all, so we got to figure out.
So can I propose that next meeting we focus on parking and noise as a policy sort of a thing, framework, is that
Would that be parking and traffic together?
parking, traffic parking and noise.
Okay,
That's fine, I have no problem with that.
yeah.
Is that okay with you?
Sure.
And also we'll try to get some other agritourism regulations, see what other folks
That-
are doing.
And could you also?
And
guide
also the code,
The prior.
the code issues that we have had to address in
And
the last
also,
24
can I
months.
also request that whatever portions of existing zoning, whatever safety rules you have with ULDC, I'm sure it's not just us, but if a commercial business or anybody else, what are the existing rules in
Well,
the absence of
right.
ag tourism? What applies to us? Can we see?
In the report,
Right.
there are provisions for some of those things.
Okay, so should we
that are in there.
refer to that, those?
You can,
specific-
you can take a look at those as a starting point, and I'll try to get it more focused with respect to the parking and traffic. All right. All right.
All right.
Anything else?
I think that's it.
Anything else, Jeff? That's it?
Okay.
Okay. Anything else?
A motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn for the evening?
Yes,
Second.
yes, good.
Yep.
Okay.
Done. Thank you.
Second.
Appreciate your time and effort.
Thank you. Adjourn.
And who made the motion? Who made the motion?
He made.
I second.
Second.
You made the motion, I second.
Okay, you made, okay, you made it. I got you.
Yeah. Motion to adjourn doesn't need a second, but that's the.
Yeah, no, I just,
Oh,
that's why I asked who made it. All right, have a great night, gentlemen.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you.
Russ.
Do this again.
Yeah.
Okay. Once again, please. Take care of her, contact her, see what the issue is. Oh.
She actually called me during the meeting, but.
Thank you again. Thank you. I have to